Hello and welcome to another Read With Me. I'm yours truly, Isabel Bedell, and I'm here to read with you another amazing chapter of the book Limitless by Jim Kwik. And this book has been amazing thus far. We are on chapter 4. If you're brand new to the channel, welcome. We're so happy to have you here. So amazing new people are coming into the community. Absolutely impressed by the backgrounds of these people: accountants, financial advisors, teachers from different parts of the world. They're all committed to improving their families' lives, getting educated, and also having a space where they can actually learn and escape. So I think that's one of the reasons why we choose these type of environments and why we are committed to not only impacting the lives of billions of amazing people all over the world, but the reason why we do what we do. So this particular channel, if you're brand new, welcome. We focus on personal and financial freedom. So we read 2 books a month, one on personal freedom and one on financial freedom. And the beautiful thing about it is that these tools, books, have enabled us to learn so much, not only about ourselves, but how to navigate through life, how to navigate through the power of creating systems, how to navigate through the power of understanding. Okay, now that this is happening, I can actually improve upon it because now I know how to do it based on everything that I've read on this book, everything that I've learned from this particular author. Because let's be real, books are the secret to getting to where you want to go. Having a mentor is a shortcut, but books are history. Just being able to go back in time and get the summary version or the more vulnerable side of people. So like all the books that we're reading are really enabling us to understand the mind frame, the ways people that are, let's say, billionaires today have been able to overcome specific challenges that have enabled them to get to the next level over and over and over. So that's why we do what we do. And if you don't know, we actually donate 22% of the entire earnings of Billionairette towards a foundation, towards a giving cause. And this particular year, we're committed to donating 23 laptops for 23 families in need. So in the link below, you will find a GoFundMe page that was created for us to just build that up, get $5,000. That's the goal. And when that happens, we're going to be able to document all of those amazing opportunities to actually gift the laptops individually with people, families, so they can be enabled to have the freedom, the ultimate freedom tool. We believe is one, obviously, your mindset. But 2, you can also leverage a lot of opportunities through a laptop, things that you can't do with just a phone. So now with the world becoming so technologically advanced and, with all the things that you can learn from the power of this device, a laptop is really an awesome tool to gift a family in need so they can increase their opportunities for financial freedom, for personal freedom, for communication, for connection, all of that. So make sure to check out the link below. Donate whatever you can, $1, $5, $50, $500, $5,000. It is going towards an actual family. So definitely check that out. And without further ado, let's actually get into chapter 4 of Limitless, which is an amazing book. And chapter 4 is how to read and remember this book. And if matter of fact, any book. Okay. So your time is one of the greatest assets. It's the one thing you can't get back. As your brain coach, I want you to get the greatest results and returns on your attention. So here are some of the recommendations on how to get the most out of this book. You can apply this advice towards practically anything you want to learn and read. Let's start with a question. Have you ever read something only to forget it in the next day? You're not alone. Psychologists refer to this as a forgetting curve. It is a mathematical formula that describes the rate at which information is forgotten after it initially is learned. Research suggests that humans forget approximately 50% of what they learned within an hour and average of 70% within 24 hours. Below are a handful of recommendations that will help you stay ahead of the curve. And later, I will share advanced strategies to accelerate your learning and retention in the sections on study, speed reading, and memory improvement. And this is the actual chart here. So if you notice, this is the elapsed time since learning, okay? And this is the actual forgetting curve. That's crazy. Research suggests that our natural ability to concentrate wanes between 10 to 40 minutes. If we spend any longer on a given task, we get diminishing returns on our investment of time because our attention starts to wander. So for that reason, I suggest to use the Pomodoro Technique, a productivity method developed by Francesco Cirillo, based in the idea that the optimal time for a task is 25 minutes, followed by a 5-minute break. Each 25-minute chunk is called a Pomodoro. As you read this book, I suggest that you read for one Pomodoro and then take a 5-minute brain break before continuing. When it comes to learning, the Pomodoro Technique works for reasons related to memory, specifically the effect of primacy and recency. The effect of primacy is that you're more likely to remember what you learned in the beginning of a learning session, a class, a presentation, or even a social interaction. If you go to a party, you might meet 30 strangers. And if you're most likely to remember the first 5 people that you meet, unless you've been trained to remember names with my method, which I'll teach you later in this book. The effect of recency is that you're also likely to remember the last thing that you've learned, more recent. At the same party, this means that you'll remember the names of the last few people you met. We've all procrastinated before a test, and then the night before the exam, we sit down and cram as much as possible without any breaks. So primacy and recency are just 2 of the many reasons cram sessions don't work. But by taking breaks, you create more beginnings and endings, and you retain far more information of what you're actually learning. Opening, primacy, closing, recency. So this is it. That's how it is. You create a big U if you are trying to cram something. You might remember something that you first start with, but then you won't get anything in between. The sandwich, right? If you sit down to read a book over the course of 2 hours without taking any breaks, you might remember the first 20 minutes of what you read. Then maybe you'll experience a dip around the 30-minute mark, and then you'll likely to remember the end of what you read. This means that the lull in between, with no breaks for assimilation or thinking through what you just read, results in a dead space for learning. So take this book one Pomodoro at a time so you get the most out of what you've read. And if you still choose to cram, you'll learn helpful methods in the book to retain in between information. Did you know that the very act of reading this book will make you smarter? I realize this is a big claim, but I'm completely convinced that it's very true. On one level, it's going to teach you to be smarter through the tools and tactics that I share, but on another level, what you're actively reading right now, you'll form pictures in your mind and you'll make connections between what you know and what you're learning, and you'll be able to think about this as it applies to your current life, and you will be able to imagine how you can use the knowledge you're making and how you're taking it all in. It promotes neuroplasticity. Every now and then, a man's mind is stretched by a new idea or sensation, but never shrinks back to its former dimensions. When you read any book, you have the opportunity to stretch the range of your mind, and it will never be the same. Here's a quick start. Set a timer for 25 minutes from now and concentrate on what you're reading in this book for that amount of time. When your alarm goes off, bookmark this book and close it, and then write down what you learned within the 25 minutes. Nice. Actually, let me do that right now. I'm going to go into here. Alarm. Put 25 minutes. Okay. And we've begun. So use a faster method. To get the most out of this book, here's a simple method of learning anything quickly. I call it the faster method. And I want you to use this as you read, starting now. The acronym FASTER stands for F-A-S-T-E-R, faster. F is to forget. A is for act. S is for state. T is for teach. E is for enter. And R is for review. And here's the breakdown. F is to forget. The key to laser focus is to remove or forget that which distracts you. There are 3 things that you want to forget, at least temporarily. The first is what you already know. When learning something new, we tend to assume we understand more than we do about the subject. What we think we know about the topic can stand in the way of our ability to absorb new information. One of the reasons children learn rapidly is because they are empty vessels. They know they don't know. Some people who claim to have 20 years of experience have 1 year of experience that they've repeated over 20 times. To learn beyond your present sense of restraints, I want you to temporarily suspend what you already know or think you know about the topic and approach it with the Zen philosophy, a beginner's mind. Remember that your mind is like a parachute. It only works when it's open. The second thing is to forget what's not urgent or important. Contrary to the popular belief that your brain doesn't multitask, and more on this later, if you're not fully present, it will be difficult for you to learn when you focus on is split. Here's a quick start to that. As you're reading this book, when your mind is inevitably wandering into something else, and that something else is important but not so urgent, don't try to not think about it. What you resist persists. Instead, keep a notebook close by to capture that thought or idea by writing it down, and you can thus release it temporarily to be addressed after the task at hand is complete. I like that. And finally, forget about your limitations. There are preconceived notions you believe about yourself, such as that your memory isn't good enough or that you're a slow learner. Suspend what you believe is possible. I know this may sound difficult, but keep an open mind to what you do. And after all, since you are reading this book, some part of you deep down must believe there's more to life than what you've already demonstrated. Do your best. Keep your self-talk positive. Remember this. If you fight for your limitations, you get to keep them. Your capabilities aren't fixed, and it's possible to learn everything. If you fight for your limitations, you get to keep them. Your capabilities aren't fixed. It is possible to learn anything. So that's why when we break limiting beliefs, your entire mind, your entire outcome changes. Your life changes. A is for act. Let's get into the second one. Traditional education has trained many people that learning is a passive experience. You sit quietly in class, you don't talk to your neighbor, and you consume the information. But learning is not a spectator sport. The human brain does not learn as much by consumption as it does by creation. Knowing that, I want you to ask yourself how you can become more active in your learning. Take notes. Do all the quick start exercises. Download the Quick Brain app. Go to the resource page. I recommend you highlight key ideas, but don't become one of those highlight junkies who just make every page glow in the dark. If you make everything important, then nothing becomes important. The more active you are, the better, faster, and more you will learn. Here's a quick start. What is one thing that you will do to make reading this book a more active experience? Write it down. For me, it's actually reading it out loud here with you guys. S. So we're in the faster acronym, right? S is for state. All learning is state dependent. Your state is a current snapshot of your emotions. It is highly influenced by your thoughts, your psychology, and the physical condition of your body, your physiology. Your feelings or lack thereof about a subject and a specific situation affect the learning process and ultimately the results. In fact, when you tie a feeling to information, the information becomes more memorable. And to prove this, I'm guessing there's a song, a fragrance, or even a food that you can take that can take you back to your childhood. Information times emotion helps create long-term memories. The opposite is also true. What was the predominant emotional state that you felt back in school? When I ask audiences this question, most people in the room shout out boredom. In all likelihood, you can relate to this. If your emotional energy at school was low, it's no wonder you forgot the periodic table. But when you take control of your state of mind and your body, you can shift your experience of learning from boredom to excitement, curiosity, and even fun. And to achieve this, you might try shifting the way your body moves in a learning environment, or picking different moods before you sit down to learn. Change your posture or the depth of your breathing. Sit or stand the way you would if you were totally energized and excited for what was coming. Get excited about what you will benefit from, what you are about to learn, and what you will do with your new knowledge. Remember, all learning is state dependent. Consciously choose states of joy, fascination, and curiosity. Here's another quick start. How motivated, energized, and focused are you at this moment? Rate your current state on a scale from 1 to 10. What is one thing that you will do right now to increase that number? Maybe I can sit more uptight or upright. T is for teach. If you want to cut your learning curve dramatically, learn the intention of teaching the information to someone else. Think about it. If you know you have to give a presentation on what you learn, you will approach how you learn the topic with the intention of mastering it well enough to explain it to someone else. You will pay closer attention. Your notes will be more detailed, and you might even ask better questions. And when you teach something, you get to learn it twice. Once on your own, and then again through educating another person. Learning isn't always solo. It can be social. You may enjoy this book more if you invite someone else to learn it with you. But a copy for a friend, or even better, start a Limitless book club, which is, by the way, what the BIC is, the Billionaire Inner Circle. That meets weekly, and you can discuss the ideas and the concepts of this book. You'll enjoy learning more when you're making memories with a friend or a group of friends. Working with someone else will not only help you stay accountable, but it will give you someone to practice this method with. Here's another quick start to that. Find a learning buddy to read this book and hold each other accountable. Write down the name of that person. In this case, it's the Billionaire Inner Circle. E is for enter. What is the simplest and most powerful personal performance tool? Your calendar. We enter important things on our schedule: work meetings, parent-teacher gatherings, dentist appointments, taking Fluffy to the vet, and so on. Do you know what a lot of people don't schedule? Their own personal growth and development time. If it's not on your calendar, there's a good chance it's not getting done. It's too easy for the day to slip by with you forgetting to work out your body and brain. Here's another quick start to that. Take out your calendar and enter your limitless readings for the next 7 days. Label these Limitless Me, Genius Time, Brain Training, Conversations with Jim, or anything else provocative enough to guarantee you'll keep this date on your calendar. And the last one, R, is for review. One of the best ways to reduce the effects of the forgetting curve is to actively recall what you learned. With spaced repetition, you're able to retain information by reviewing in multiple spread out sessions. Going over the material at intervals increases our brain's ability to remember it. And to leverage this principle, before you begin your reading session, take a moment, only a few moments, to actively retrieve what you've learned the session before. Your brain will give greater value to the received material, the reviewed material, and prime your mind for what's to come. And here's a quick start for that. Before each reading, take a few moments to talk about or write what you remember from the previous reading. Choose wisely. Okay. The French philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre noted that life is C between B and D, meaning that life we live is the choices we make between the B of birth, D, death. And the profound simplicity of that statement is particularly relevant to the journey we're engaged with here. Being limitless is a choice, and that choice is entirely ours. Regardless of your circumstances, you can choose to give up this power. But why would you, when you know that you can truly live a life without barriers? But choosing is an active thing, and the time to make this choice is right now. Check out this quote. This is your last chance, and after this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill. You stay in Wonderland. And I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. And remember, all I'm offering is the truth, nothing more. That's Morpheus. Okay? And we're ending it here with, so I want you to resolve and commit. Most people are sincerely interested in doing something that they know they should do, but they don't do it because they consider it a preference, not a promise. There's a tremendous power in making a real resolution. I want you to write down your commitment to complete this book. When we write something down, we're more likely to do what we promise. So below, I've included a commitment page for you. And it looks like this. This is the commitment page that he has here. Nice. The questions are the answer. Have you ever read a book, page in a book, arrived at the end, and could not recall what you just read? You may even reread it only to forget it again. I don't want you to experience this while you're reading this book. So why do you think this happens? The answer is that you're not asking the right questions. Questions, in fact, are the answer. Every second your senses gather up to 11 million bits of information from the world around you. That's crazy. Every second we gather 11 million bits of information. Obviously, if you try to interpret and decipher all of them at once, you'd immediately be overwhelmed. And that's why the brain is primarily a deletion device. It is designed to keep the information out. The conscious mind typically processes only 50 bits per second. What makes it through the filter is determined by the part of the brain called the reticular activating system, the RAS for short. The RAS is responsible for a number of functions, including sleep, behavior modification. It also acts as the gatekeeper of information through a process called habituation, which allows the brain to ignore meaningless and repetitive stimuli and remain sensitive to the other inputs. One of the ways to guide the RAS are the questions we ask ourselves. These tell the part of the brain what is important to us. Let's take a young sister's birthday as an example. Years ago, my sister kept sending me postcards, pictures, and emails of pug dogs. You know, the ones with the mushy faces and bulgy eyes. They're cute and docile. You can dress them up as ballerinas, they won't care. Of course, I wondered why she was sending me photos of pugs, and then I remembered it was her birthday was coming up, and it was evident that she was leaving me clues because she wanted one. Here's another quote. The one real object of education is to leave a person in the condition of continuously asking questions. I like that. Later that day, I was checking out the health store and I looked over the checkout line. I looked over to the checkout line. To my surprise, I saw a woman carrying her pug over the shoulder. Wow, I haven't even seen one of these in such a long time. What are the chances of that? I thought. And the next day, I went running in my neighborhood and there was another person just walking around with 6 different pugs. The question is, where did all these pugs come from? Did they just magically appear? Of course not. They were always there. But in the flood of the stimuli, I had never paid attention to them before. Once pugs broke through my awareness, I started seeing them all over the place. Have you ever had experiences like this? Maybe it was some kind of car or an outfit that magically began appearing everywhere? In an interview with media personality Jemmy May, we compared this effect to how our favorite social media platform starts showing us more posts based on the past expressed interest. The site that you're on knows because of what you've clicked, liked, watched before. Your RAS is like that site's algorithm. It shows you more of what you express interest in, and it hides the things that you don't engage in. So often, the answers we want are there, but we're not asking the right questions to shine a spotlight on them. Instead, we're asking useless questions or worse, questions that are disempowering. Why am I not smart enough? Why am I not good enough? Why can't I lose weight? Why can't I find the right person to be with? Why we ask so many negative questions, and then those questions give us evidence or pugs as answers. The human mind is always generalizing in order to make sense of the world. Here, there, and everywhere, we can find evidence to confirm our beliefs. Thinking is a process of reasoning through something, during which we ask and answer questions. You may be asking, is that true? Well, see, you had to ask the question. Well, we have tens of thousands of thoughts a day. We have one, maybe two dominant questions we ask more than others. As you can imagine, these questions direct our focus, which directs how we feel and how we consequently spend our lives. As a thought experiment, imagine someone whose most frequent question is, how do I get people to like me? I'm going to be highlighting this. This is so good. You don't know their age, career, or what they like, but you know more than they probably realize. What do you imagine their personality is like? You don't need to know much to guess what your people that they are a people pleaser. They're indirect in expressing their needs, and they're not authentic about how they feel or think in any given moment. Someone who is constantly asking themselves how to get people to like them can never truly be their true self because they will always be molding themselves to the preference of the people around them. And even if they're not aware of it, you know all this information and you only know one question they ask themselves. What do you think their dominant question is? And here it is, the dominant question. When I felt my brain was broken, I loved to escape into the world of superheroes, comic books, dungeons, dragons, and the world of fantasy helped me forget my pain. I decided that the superpower that would be best for me was my invisibility. And the dominant question was, how do I stay invisible? Instead of being seen, I always watched everyone else, wondering what everyone's life was like. I wondered why this person was so popular and how that person was so happy and what made that other person so smart. I was suffering all the time, so I watched people and learned from the world around me. My dominant question changed to, how do I make this better? I wanted to solve this riddle, so how does my mind work so I can work my mind? That's what the question turned into, the dominant question turned into. The more and more I asked these new questions, the more I got answers to them. This book is the result of 2 decades of asking empowering questions. Here's a quote: "He who asks questions cannot avoid answers." That's really powerful. And we're finalizing here. I first met Will Smith at the Quincy Jones 80th birthday party after hearing about my traumatic brain injury. He invited me to be his guest at the premiere of the film Concussion, a movie about the concerns of football-related head trauma, and I'll talk about the brain protection in an upcoming chapter. Eventually, Will booked me to come to Toronto to spend time with him for a week on set. He was shooting a superhero film, so you can imagine that I was in glory. What was interesting to me was that the cast and crew were working each night from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. outside in the dead of winter. Not all Hollywood is glitz and glam. There's a lot of hurrying up just to wait on set. During a break, Will and I discovered a few of his dominant questions, one of which was, how do I make this moment even more magical? While we were waiting for Will's next scene to shoot, his family and his friends were huddled in tents watching the other actors work. And at 3 a.m., while I'm sure everyone was cold and tired, we got to see his dominant question in action. He was bringing everyone hot cocoa, cracking jokes to make everyone smile, and actively playing host when he could have just been resting. He was indeed making that moment even more magical. The result of this question directed his focus and his behavior and completely changed the experience for everyone. Here's a quick start. What is the one dominant question that you want to ask yourself? Write that down. Prepare your mind. Questions direct your focus so they play everything in life, even reading comprehension. Because people typically don't ask enough questions when they read, they compromise their focus on understanding and retention. And if you prep your mind with the right kind of questions before you read, you'll see answers everywhere. For what that reason is, I place specific questions throughout the book. To start you off, here are the 3 dominant questions to ask on our journey together. They will help you take action on what you learn and turn the knowledge into power. Knowledge into power. How can I use this? Why must I use this? When will I use this? Those are the 3 dominant questions to continue to ask yourself throughout reading this book. Here's a quick start for you. These are the 3 magical questions. How can I use it? Why must I use this? And when will I use this? They will help you integrate the knowledge from this book into your head, heart, and hands and ingrain them. Write these questions down where you can see them, on your desk, on your phone. And then instead of passively reading, consider these questions as you take in the knowledge in this book. And remember, the questions are the answers. At the beginning of every chapter for the rest of the book, you will find a series of questions that are designed to prime your focus as you read. Study the questions before you read each chapter, and you'll be better prepared to understand and remember what you learn. Along the questions, do the quick start exercises seated in strategic places throughout the book. They are specific activities designed to train you and take immediate action to learning in life. Most of these can be done in 1 to 2 minutes. Remember the power of neuroplasticity. Every time that you answer a question and do the new activity, you rewire your brain. I also conclude each chapter with exercises to do before you move on to the next section, to really set the lessons in practice. And here we'll end with an amazing quote. Everybody is a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing that it's stupid. Albert Einstein. Wow, this is fantastic. I hope you got a lot out of this. Let's see, let's look at our timer. Look at that. We're about 1 minute and 40 seconds in. I want to just take this moment to really bring home the dominant question part. You know, that is something so powerful that if we start asking ourselves, you know, the type of question, the questions are the answers. That's what he says. So if we can ask ourselves the type of questions that will bring us towards what we want to achieve, that is where the answers lie, right? Live. And you're able to experience them as well. So I'm so excited to see you in the next Read With Me session where we go over chapter 5. I'm super pumped about it. This is such a great book. It's a timeless type of book too, because you can read it if you're young, if you're like very young, or if you're older. And this is the type of book that helps you rewire your brain to achieve exactly what you're looking to achieve in your personal life, financial life, relationships, all of it. So happy you're here, and I'll see you in the next Read with Me session. See you later.